Here. Right now.
Here. If anybody's got anything that's not on the agenda that you'd like to talk to us about, please see Alexa. She will give you a form to fill out. If it's on the agenda, we'll have time for public comment when we get to it. First item up is our consent agenda, which it does have the two items on there. We added the facade grant for 230 South Commerce Avenue earlier today. If anybody has questions, there is a folder that has more information on it, but it's basically they're going to paint the building. So it's to paint the building. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any further discussion from the board? Nelly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I know.
Yes. Next up are staff reports. Ms. Vasquez.
Yes, sir. I do not have anything to add to the report unless the board has any questions.
All right. On to new business. First up is Mr. Natelick with the Centennial Mural contribution.
Good evening, Commission.
Good
Scott
evening.
Natelick for the record. So, Mayor approached me about this Centennial mural. I don't know, I think he approached me about it probably 3 or 4 months ago, but more recently, within the past month, I would say, he approached me and asked me to bring it before City Council to see whether there was any desire to participate in repainting that Centennial mural. So at our last meeting, I went to council. They asked that I come to the CRA and try to get 50% funding for our share. So what I would understand that to mean, if my math is correct, is I got a quote from Larry Felder for $5,500 to do the mural. I understand that you all approved $1137.50 as half towards painting of the wall at $22.75. Sound right?
Yes.
So by my math, the $5,500 minus the $1137.50 that the tenant would pay would leave $43.62.50. That would leave $21.81.25 split in half, 50%. You will have any interest in participating in painting the mural or repainting.
Yeah, we said we weren't going to do this, Scott, but I know the day after we said that, John was interested in seeing what he can do. So I don't personally lean really hard either way, but we did have discussion.
Well, we already agreed to give him the $1,100, right?
Yes.
So could we put that towards that? Like, could we just move forward with that and that be put towards the
No, no,
mural?
what Scott's
So-
asking is splitting the difference.
So the easy part is to just say that we would give the 1137 to the city in lieu of reimbursing the property owner for the repainting, since the city is going to contract, you guys are going to contract to do the work.
Correct.
So we could apply those funds to the city as opposed to the building owner. What the request is that we up that amount from 1137 to 21.
$21.81.25.
$1,612.50, right? That's what we're short.
So, you know, I leave it to you guys, but it kind of goes against what the previous discussion was. I don't have any issue giving the city the money we would have paid it for it anyway, but I'm going to leave it to the board to determine if y'all want to up that amount or not.
Right.
Where are you getting the $1,600 difference?
So that's just if we say that the city and the CRA was splitting the $5,500 and we've already committed $1137.50, it would take an additional $1,612.50 to get to our
To meet that
half.
So my understanding was to paint the wall was $22.75. Your half was $1137.50, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So by my math, trying to get to 2181.25.
Right, so
So that's
A
just over
thousand.
1,000.
$1,043.75 if the building owner will pay for the other $1137.50.
Correct, yeah.
I don't know whether it was the building owner that was paying for it or the tenant. I was under the impression it was the tenant, but I did.
think
The grant is to the building owner.
but
correct.
now
I
that
did have
right,
it.
so now that we've given it to the building owner, it's like, I mean, are we
No,
gonna?
we haven't given it yet. It's reimbursable. So the city had asked us to kind of call time out till they could discern.
They told him
whether
to
they
stop before he
Oh, okay,
proceeded.
got
Yeah,
it.
So nothing has happened. The building hasn't been painted. We haven't dispersed any funds.
And the
yeah.
building owner would be on board with it.
And he's not objecting. My discussion. And we're the mayors.
And just the mayor is asking for it because he thinks it's an important mural to preserve because of the,
So what was your number, Scott?
So the total number is 4362.50,
Uh-huh.
right? If you take 4362.50 and you add 1137.50, you come to the 5,500. But 4362.50 divided by 2 is 2181.25.
Right.
2181.25 versus what you have all already committed with 1137.50.
Right, but that makes us paying more than half in the end. Because if you take that 22 that you want plus this 1,100 we've already committed, we end up paying 3,300 off the 5,500.
No,
no,
I,
no, I'm not asking for that.
What am I missing?
he just wants $2,100 out of us as
Period.
opposed to $1,100.
Oh, not on top
Right,
of
so
1,100.
really
I got
it's
you.
not on top.
Okay, now I follow.
Sorry.
So to make it easy, the decision is, you have a couple of options here. One, you can just say, we will change our original agreement for the 1137.50, and instead of giving it to the business or to the property owner for reimbursement, we'll give it to the city so they can apply those funds. Or you could say, yeah, we'll go and do halvesies and do 21 blah blah blah,
Right.
and give that to the city to cover half of the cost of the mural renovation or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So
What was your original relationship for 2275? Were you paying it all and then getting reimbursed half from the property owner, or
no, they were going to do the work, pay for the work, and then we
you
would
were going to reimburse them?
correct.
That's under a standing grant. We have that 50% up to 10,000, so it was just going to fall under that. He's already received
For the-
50% for the remaining of the building,
For
correct?
the other three sides, this is the only one that's not been done, and we did make the deviation that because we didn't know what was going to happen with the mural, that we would come back and revisit this one at one side independently
Right.
based on what they were going to do. Now, I'll throw Scott a little bit of a bone here on this one. Had the property owner come and said we were going to pay to have it redone, we probably would have participated at 50%.
We could have considered participating at 50 under the grant
Correct.
terms, correct? That's true. I don't know. I don't have heartburn over it, but it opens the can of worms we said we didn't want to get into. That's the biggest concern I got with it. So I don't know how you draw the line.
That is my only concern, but I would not want to speak for the board. I would want y'all's opinion on this. If they had originally come to us and said, we're going to update, we're going to renovate the mural, and it's going to cost us $6,000, would we have contributed and paid for that? I don't know the answer to that. I just put it out
Right.
there for y'all to consider.
What's the plan for the other murals downtown?
The ones that
Same.
HGTV did,
Right.
we are on the hook for. The other ones downtown are the ones we're afraid of, that we don't want property owners looking to the CRA to maintain
The
their murals.
discussion was just to stay away from opening the door for all of them downtown, basically. And again, it could be on a case-by-case basis. It's just hard to say yes to somebody and no to somebody else.
Somebody's gonna have to take a stab at this.
I need to know what you're thinking.
I see it both ways. I mean,
I don't
I-
really have a problem with.
I agree that it could potentially open the door for other people, but how often are we gonna have to do that?
It's something that to me is not a huge, gigantic
Expense.
cost, yeah. So
Because
Yeah.
ultimately we've already committed to $1,137. He's asking for another 1,000, right?
Yes.
so to me, it's not a.
What was the number that we need to get to? We need a total.
2181.25 from your current commitment of 1137.50.
Plus the 11?
Yeah.
Not plus. Total of 2181.35. Okay.
You were inclined to make a motion, you could
2181.25.
include that
City-
dollar amount.
The city would contribute 2181.25. You all would contribute 2181.25.
And then we
The
do away
building
with the
owner
1137.50.
contributes 1137.50.
Correct? Is that what we're doing? Okay. I'll make a motion to contribute $2,181.35 to the repainting of the Centennial mural located on the wall of the property at 116 Magnolia Avenue, and rescind the 1137.50 grant that was awarded previously.
That okay?
I think that's okay. I do think we need some kind of written confirmation from the building owner that we're moving in this direction as opposed to the grant funds coming to them. That would just be like for
Contingent.
our record keeping.
Contingent upon
Sure.
what I just said, contingent upon getting something in writing from the building owner stating that they are agreeable to that 1137.50 going to the city versus them.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Is that 2181.25?
35, right?
25.
25? Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
Save. the
Change that.
81.25.
$2,181.25.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Also,
A motion and a second. Anything else from the board? Anything from the public? Nelly?
Yes.
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 I know.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
I still have to take it to council, so just for that, just so you know.
So it's that solid right now. Okay.
Scott, we appreciate your overtime contribution.
All right. Next up, we have our commercial rental sublease program that we discussed in the workshop. At this point, is there a direction that the board would like to go forward with? It always sounds better when you make it in the form of a motion.
I will make a motion to move forward with the commercial rental sublease program that was discussed in the workshop. Do you need details of that?
I don't think so. Just maybe giving staff and the board chair authority to start having conversations and negotiating lease terms to then bring those back to the board in the form of an agreement.
Can we say include as per written as provided workshop? Can we make that part of the curriculum?
What you guys just said.
So basically, then
agree.
the motion would be to move forward with the rental sublease program as presented in the workshop, including the notes that were discussed in the workshop,
And to give
and
authority.
give staff the authority to move forward with talking to business owners and negotiating agreements that will come back to the board for approval.
Correct. One change instead of business owners, building owners.
So, okay, so that's the motion that was
That
made
is the
by
motion.
Rachel. Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Anything from the public? No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
All right, yes. On to the main event. Old business, 228 North Ridgewood Drive. Mr. Blackman is here tonight. I know that he's had an opportunity to meet with y'all just to go back and do some background. We disposed of the property to the Blackmans 2 years ago in January-ish. Since that time, Robert has been working pretty diligently trying to find amenable and good tenants, primarily a restaurant, that would go into that property. On several occasions, he and I have talked about it, and I want to put out there that I have been one of the ones to kind of slow roll this thing to some degree, because he's asked me on more than one occasion, should we just go ahead and get away from some of the bigger names that he was talking to and just get the building started and constructed. And I've told him, no, I think it's better to get this thing right than it is about the timing. So he's gone through that. The restaurant, because of traffic counts, did not work out. He now has a agreement for Class A office space that's going to go in there. They're ready to, to move forward with the construction process in this portion. And also, since the restaurant was coming out of it, it sort of changed the appetite that the bank had for financing, which is kind of what's bringing him here today. One of the things that needs to be considered is when you have a CRA district, there's usually that gap, and we've talked about the gap on more than one occasion, and that's no different here in this building situation, that you can have all the money, but when you start doing the math and looking at it, there's that 20% gap, it seems to be, that if I put all of my money into it on paper, it doesn't make as much sense. And that's where, because it's a CRA district, we're authorized to come in and interject capital into a project so that it will make sense for the owners and make sense financially to move forward. So Robert has come forward and said, I'm ready to go, but I'm going to need some additional funding from the CRA. And so he's asking for a $600,000 incentive agreement with us and some tax abatement on the back end to make this thing, I'm not going to say make financial sense, because he'll tell me it still doesn't make financial sense, but it makes it palatable to where he can get the project up and running. So that's what's before us tonight. He's here to answer questions, and I'm just going to open it up for board discussion.
Explain to me the tax incentive.
So Robert has asked each of you, I believe, for 80% of what we would call tax abatement. And the way that the mechanics of that would work is that he would pay the property taxes. He would bring the paid receipt back to us. We would take that amount, multiply it by 85%, and then have a check sent back to him for that. He's asked for 5 years of abatement.
80 or 85%.
For 85%. I would not be opposed, should the board feel the same way, to go 100% for 5 years. I don't think it costs us anything to do that. In 5 years we'll have that. It'll be on the tax roll, and we'll be able to start making our money, in 5 years. So if you want to stick to the 85, that's fine. To me, there's not a lot of difference between 85 and 100 in this one. It does make it a little cleaner just to say, you wrote a check for this, here's a check for that, but it's a calculation to say what's X number times 85% too. So whatever the temperature of the board is fine.
I have some thoughts, and it's probably the unpopular ones, but I do think these things need to be discussed. I want to start out with thanking Robert for the effort. I understand what you're doing there, and it's no mean feat, so that definitely is appreciated. But I feel we're a long way away from the agreement that we started with. So my initial instinct was that this should be renegotiated from scratch, and I know that's not necessarily fair to the Blackmans, but I do think we've had this discussion. I think when the initial request was made on the NetSays Week for Dance Unlimited, this came up, and the discussion was basically that if this incentive was available when the application or the original advertisement was made for this property, it's likely, it could be argued that it's likely that there would have been other applicants during that process that would have been competing with this, what we have decided to agree with. So that's the one thing I've got trouble with as far as the position we're in. The second thing that I don't like with the current standing is the fact that ownership of the building was transferred, and it was on the premise that that was a requirement for the performance of the agreement as you had it structured. And if my understanding currently is those limitations to that is been removed, if there's not going to be any financing required or available, and this is going to be privately funded, then I don't really see the need for that property to not be in our possession like it would be for any of the other projects that we have out there. So those are the two, probably my two main concerns.
The 600,000, that's 20% of your contribution that you're going to have out of pocket. Is that correct?
Robert Blackman. Yeah, so we got 4 bids based on this roll, which I will pass around.
Welcome to my world.
So we got 4 bids. I think the high was 4.9. The low is floating between 3 and 3.5. We're trying to work with that firm right now. We want to get going on this. So what we were going to say is,
Yes.
let's just go on the lowest possible amount, which is the 3, and cap it there to not to exceed 600. So it's probably going to end up being less than 20%, but we just wanted to get this thing moving. So 6 was the cleanest because it was going to be the lowest possible number that we discussed.
So before we jump too far ahead, let me address some of Willem's concerns. The first one with the incentive, when it was put out, it is in the solicitation that you can ask for whatever you want. So had somebody come forward, they should have expected that there was money available from the CRA. The Blackmans didn't ask for any money up front. Now that's also, I would say, before they had an opportunity to get in there and see the actual condition. Well, they've seen the condition of the building, but to see the actual cost, get quotes and whatnot from contractors as far as what it's going to run. The change from an ownership, the bank is not willing to foot the construction loan, but they are willing to refinance after the fact. So you could theoretically say, we're going to claw back the building, let him do the work. And if he agreed to that, and then you may have to go and, essentially redispose of it again to allow for it to be encumbered by a bank after the construction is completed. The other thing, we've had this come up too with at least one other owner, that the comment is, if I'm going to put 7 figures into the building, then I want to own the building. So I would, not to put words in Robert's mouth, but at the same time, I don't know how much somebody's going to agree to that part. I don't think you have to re-advertise. I don't think we're in that kind of a position. While the number is bigger, every single project that we've been involved in, we've had to add to our incentive agreement, whether it be fire suppression, whether it be fixing a roof. I mean, each and every one of these has required additional support from us. His request is a kind of a one and done at this point. If his number goes above, he's not coming back and saying, well, 20% of 4 million is 8. He's saying, I'm going to take, that's my risk to bear. I just want the 600 to get things going.
We in the middle? Something?
No.
Sarah? No? Yeah. I understand the premise, David. It's not the same thing in my mind. I also think there's a difference in us making money available that's not earmarked for any specific tasks or construction portions of the construction versus what we've done in the past. So yes, if that money was allocated and we said, look, we want to own the building. You're saying it has to be during construction, we can have that discussion by the end of construction. I understand that, but if you say that's ours and you do the roof, we'll pay for the roof. You do this, we'll pay for that, up to whatever amount, whether it be 600,000. That is, to me, is different than just saying, well, we'll contribute 20% of your proposed budget. And I understand that's just a number, not what the actual construction budget is going to be, but that just makes a number available up front. So that's my opinion on that.
Right, so if he doesn't finish the project though, even though it is currently in his name, let's say he doesn't finish the project, so he doesn't finish what he said he would do, what then?
So the building would come back to us and we would not be obligated to write him a check for 600,000. The
Right.
600,000 is reimbursable. And I think that it's,
At what point does the building come back to us too?
if the project wasn't completed. I mean, now,
So
there
at the end of
there are
construction, it's
miles, well, there are milestones in there that you could dig your heels in on. We've been very amenable along the way to say we'll extend those. But if it got to a point where he said, I'm out, I'm walking away, there's no CO, the building comes
We
back
have
to
it
us.
in writing that it comes back to us.
I
So I
understand.
see where your concern is, but in his defense, again, he's going to have 7 figures in it. Who in their right mind would put 7 figures into something that they don't rightfully own?
It's just a difference of opinion. I'm not
Yeah,
trying to
sure.
change your
No,
mind
no,
on
no,
that.
no.
That's okay.
To be clear, I agree with all the points you're making, Commissioner Badenhorst. This is a different spot than where I started, but what I feel good about is I literally have beaten every bush in the country for the best option here. And I'll never be able to share how much time I've spent on this, but I am very confident this is the very best option that Sebring downtown can achieve at this point. I guess I don't care that much about sharing, but Ford's Garage I spent nearly a year on, and I was going to give them $4 million in tenant improvement credits to have a literal tread break even on rent. I wasn't going to make a dime on that, but the point was it was going to hopefully spur growth down here. Had some conversations with Applebee's, had conversations with a group called the Tides Market out of Safety Harbor, and then had a fair amount of conversation with the owner of Splitsville about doing a custom concept, and they were chosen for a restaurant they were chosen by Disney to do a restaurant in California, so they, were way too busy. To be honest with you, I'm excited because I was nervous about the restaurants, predominantly Ford's. I thought it could become a restaurant destination, but I was worried about taking business away from the existing projects that CRA supported, which is largely bar and restaurant. I believe that this is going to support all of the existing projects that CRA has helped. Being the first dedicated office building in 50 years, you're going to essentially double daytime employment in the CRA, literally double the amount of employees there on a daily basis, which I think should be support. The other thing is, back to numbers, I didn't realize this on Friday, but I found this out last night. The Wells Fargo building on 27 is for sale. It's being auctioned off, and the starting bid at it is 1.7 million. So we are talking about numbers that we're investing that's greater than I could go buy the Wells Fargo probably on the highway. But that's where you have to do to get a downtown growing, which is why I do value the CRA and you guys' efforts, because this is the kind of lift that public-private does to try and help a blighted area.
And I think that the point about having this kind of office space, restaurants can be seasonal. You may be busting at the seams in January and struggling in July. Whereas the office space, this is going to help to create a reason for people to be in the downtown area on a regular basis. and it goes to what Robert's saying about supporting the existing, businesses that are here. It would be a very good complement, to what we're doing. So we've talked in the past about, that concept and how it would work. At this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are on the cusp of them being able to finalize the last little bit and, have a, groundbreaking type, process no later than probably January.
Yeah, we today got the signed and stamped plans, so those have now been approved by the architect, and we're looking at doing groundbreaking in January, essentially a 4-month build. But what excites me about it, which it's hard for me to get excited because it's been really a slog this far. What excites me is doubling your employment in the downtown with one project. Doubling your daytime employees is, I think, extraordinarily impactful, and I'm excited to be a part of that.
All right, so what's the pleasure of the board then, I guess, at this point?
I will make a motion to grant Mr. Blackman up to $600,000 with an 85% tax abatement for the next 5 years.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board?
Can I make one adjustment to that?
Sure.
Can we adjust that motion that the 600 is paid upon completion and provision of CO
Completion of what?
And a CO.
and provision of CO?
Yes.
Anything from the public? Nelly?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I know.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Alexa, anything from the audience? All right, on to board member remarks. We'll start with
His plans.
oh,
Those are kind of important.
Rachel. We'll start with you.
What are we doing?
Board
Sorry.
member remarks.
No, I think we're good.
Willem.
Nothing.
My office is working on 2 programs that I think could be beneficial to businesses in the CRA. One's a business incubator program, and one is a partnership with SBDC, which is a quick start program for businesses. We did 1 round of quick start. We had 10 businesses that participated in all 4 weeks of it, and so we're going to look to do that again, and I'll promote that as that comes about. The second is an incubator program. We contracted with a company that does all of the program for us, including the curriculum for it. So we just started our first year of it. We are working on 4 businesses right now. They represent all 3 municipalities, but if that's a success, it'll be something we'll look to do again and probably be more aggressive with promoting it. But those are 2 things that could eventually, potentially affect the businesses in downtown as well.
The incubator thing is something we've talked about for a while, so it's nice to see something.
We'll see if it works. We've been trying to figure out how to do it in a way that would work for our community. So we'll see if this works well. But it was grant funded for first year. If the first 6 months are successful, I'll include it in our budget for next year. So
Very good. All right, I don't think I've got anything else. So with that, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time at the workshop tonight. We're adjourned.